welcome to Thriving with Diversity, a place we embrace our diversity and thrive with it as individuals or organizations. On today's episode, I will be introducing to you one of my greatest mentors and someone I'm blessed to call a friend, Dr. James Mulli, who represents what Thriving with Diversity is all about. Dr. Mulli has traveled a lot. He's worked in different countries. He's worked in Shanghai, he's worked in Germany, worked in the US, in Kenya, and has a lot to talk about and a lot to share. And he has a story that you definitely don't want to miss. So stay tuned as Dr. Mulli introduces himself to us.
Absolutely. So my name, as you've heard, is James Mulli. I'm from Kenya. And in a nutshell, I think I'll say that I'm an educator. I'm currently living in Luxembourg. I teach and run a university here in Luxembourg, which is the European Business University, which has a very interesting mandate that we can talk about perhaps a little later. But again, I am an educator, and my goal is to educate the world.
And so inviting you today to the show is just basically to talk to my network about your journey. I mean, you have done amazing things, and I think listening to your journey, listening to your experiences, especially as a Black man who has worked in so many different countries, so many different cultures, will be a big learning experience for me and for my network, and also inspiring to people of color out there or people of diverse backgrounds who are working hard to get to where they want to be.
Well, let me just start off by saying that I was fortunate. Some of us are not born fortunately into some circumstances. So my father was an ambassador, and my journey began with me joining him in Egypt. So we lived in Egypt during one of the wars that took place there. And thereafter, we lived in Somalia. And so I got to see quite a bit of that culture. But we moved on, and also I had the opportunity to live in Germany. And in all of these places, I went to school, I studied, I learned the languages. And after Germany, we were in France. And again, I picked up the language. And thereafter, I actually I did go back to Kenya with my parents. We were together. And then from there, I was fortunate that they were able to send me to the US to study. So I studied in the US, moved up, and realized that education is very important in anything that you do. So my journey insofar as getting into or going into the working world involved working with one of the largest fund managers, the Soros Foundation. I worked as a portfolio manager. And then thereafter, I decided that it was not for me. It's a Shark Tank mentality, and I realized that you can have the best income in the world, the best sort of idea of what you want, but you will not be satisfied.
Absolutely.
So this is where education became key for me. So I went back to Germany, and I worked in education in high schools. I've worked at universities. I've worked in similar situations also in China, Shanghai, China, where I picked up the language as well. And then thereafter, Luxembourg became the choice because of my financial background and the vicinity of where I wanted to be. Luxembourg became the place where I landed. So that's a little bit of the background as to who I am and the journey that I've taken. Now, I will say that Luxembourg has been an incredible experience, but we can talk about that as well later.
Wow. What a story, James. And and the fact that you were introduced to different people and different cultures at a young age, I think it really prepared you for, it just really set you up for life, right? And so walk me through this, going into all these different countries and working in all these different cultures. What are some of the challenges that you may have faced?
I think as a person of color, I think that's the distinction we have to draw, right? There were many challenges.
Yeah.
And I will not go through the list that everybody knows, everybody experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I will say how I overcame some of these challenges. I found, and I've seen this is the case with certain personalities as well.
Mm-hmm.
I found that the only way that you can truly separate yourself from all of the I'll be diplomatic here, from all of the negative looks and all of the negative criticisms you will get as a person of color, whatever shade you are, is to be better, to be better educated, especially. So I found that in my journey as a person of color in all of these different cultures, what really did make the difference in opening the doors, in pushing aside all these negative targeting that occurs, was that my education held me and set me apart. So as soon as I got my bachelor's degree, I got my master's degree, I got another master's degree, I got my doctoral degree, and I went back and got another MBA. And ever since then, I've just been arming myself to the teeth. And I will say, just take note that everybody should know that Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are lawyers, highly educated lawyers. They are they're well educated because they set themselves apart. And I think this is something just to take note of.
So you're saying education is one very important, is an empowering aspect of rising above, right?
Correct.
Education is okay. And how was it for you, especially entering the workforce in the different countries that you've been at? There's one part, getting the education and getting into the workforce. Those are two different parts, huh? So how was it for you as you started, as you just got in, and as you survived and as you thrived, as we can clearly see in the workforce?
Well, luckily, when you submit your CV in certain countries, you don't have to put your picture on it. So luckily, when they see a CV or a resume and they note the level of education, you're immediately at the top of the pile. Now, I've had various experiences. I can give you one remarkable experience whereby I was in Germany and I had been invited for an interview over the telephone. This is before we had Zoom. This is not so long ago, but there was no Zoom. And the woman, not who I will not mention, was very excited about the interview. She said, "Oh my goodness, you're exactly what we wanted. I've listened to everything you've said, and I've seen your CV, and just come into the office and sign the contract." So I went into, yes, literally. So she was very thrilled and very happy. This was I will say, a long interview over the telephone. And I went in. And I walked into the door. Now the woman was behind a glass panel. She could see me, and her secretary was there. And the secretary was very, very kind. She said, "Oh, yes, Dr. Mulli, please come in, sit down. And can I offer you a coffee?" I said, "No, I'm fine. I'm just here to sign the contract." And then the woman came out who had interviewed me over the telephone. She was the dean of this particular institution. And she looked around and upon realizing it was me, she went back into her office. And I could see through the glass panel that she was shaking her head, very frustrated. And she did not know, she was looking at the documents, obviously my documents. And then she came back And she said, my goodness, I'm sorry. I just realized that we have a very big problem in terms of your application and that we cannot sign this contract. And I was shocked, but not surprised. There's a difference between shock and surprise.
Yes.
And which can also be another story in itself. But needless to say, the secretary, her face was flushed, and as she walked me out the door, she apologized on behalf of her boss. So the one thing, of course, that has opened all these doors, just to come back to your question, as lecturers, we tend to, you can ask me and I'll just start lecturing and giving you stories, and I won't stop. So please tell me to stop.
I will.
The one thing that I can tell you is that if you have an education and your name is at the top of the pile in terms of the CVs and resumes, this will not always happen, but it will put you at the top of that list, which has been the case. And I've applied for many, many jobs, and in most instances, I've not been denied positions.
Wow. I mean, I'm hardly speechless, really. I'm hardly speechless, but that's one moment where it just gutted me, to just hear that. Because I can share my stories as well. I've had a couple of them, but it's always, in my case, it's always been the mindset, with what mindset are you moving forward? So what could you share with my neighbor? What was the mindset that you've used all this time, or in all these instances? What gives you the strength to just, pick yourself up from such a meeting and go out and go like, hey, I'm still James Mulli and I got something to say?
Habits. I think it's just habits. I'll say that one of the things that I have come to realize is that if you form various habits, you will fall into them. And one habit that I do have is that I will always get something done immediately. I do not procrastinate. If I have to, if my daughter asks me to do something, you better believe that I will be asking her, are you ready? Are you ready to do it? Let's do it now. Let's do it now. So this is a habit. Now, it can be annoying for some, but this habit falls into how I am able to accomplish and do things, pick myself up, move forward. And not procrastinating is for me one of those features, or one of those key things that I will say, has helped me along. Now, of course, I could tell you everything else, read good books and so on, and we all know this. But that is, for me, what I have found is my silver bullet. I'm always looking at, yes, I read everything I can in terms of books, but I think the most important thing I would also suggest is consider always looking at the news and always informing yourself, not only through one publication, but multiple publications. And now with the internet, it's so easy. You can set up or podcasts and just bombard yourself with information. So I find that these sort of habits help, and that's what picks me up, because I read similar stories, and I've seen circumstances where I'm not the only one, because I come across them, and then I have a good habit of getting up and moving forward.
Wow, absolutely powerful. The power of habits. That kind of reminds me of James Clear's book, Atomic Habits.
Yeah,
great. Thank you so much for that. And the challenges, we've talked about the challenges that you've had, and what 3 tips would you have for my audience? I need 3.
The first one is don't procrastinate, try and form good habits. The second one is really to try and read as much as possible. I will come back to what I initially said about education. Let me put it this way. I have been teaching now for 20 years. I started teaching in the year 2000. So it puts us right at 20 years. as of the date of this interview. And each year I've taught a very conservative 100 students. Now, out of those 100 students, and so the number is 2,000
Wow.
that I have taught. I will say that the students have always done something for me that I think would be a tip that I've learned, which is that you never stop learning. I learn so much from my students, but I find that what I've learned more importantly is that if you're not doing something that is bigger than you, that is a passion, but that is bigger than you, then it's going to be difficult for you to continue along that line in the long term. So yes, you can get a job, you can get a well-paying job, you can work for a very nice company, but what is doing that is bigger than you, bigger than than all of us? That's why I got into education, because education is empowering, not only for the students that I have taught. When I think about the number of students that I've encountered, but I've learned so much from them, and I've come to realize that I keep learning, and I'm impassioned. And this is, for me, how everybody will eventually, lift themselves up through education and by helping others. So I find it very interesting when students write to me and they say, Dr. Mulli, do you remember when you said this? This is what made the biggest difference in my life.
Wow.
And I tell them, wow, I'm so happy that did it for you. And then when I finish the conversation, unfortunately, I'm flabbergasted because I don't remember what I told them.
Oh, now they know you don't remember.
No, it's okay. But the thing is that I'm always learning, and I've had these, you learn, you pass on knowledge. Knowledge is not ours to keep, it's ours to give and to share. That's the nature of knowledge, and the nature of knowledge is that it evolves. So 10, 20 years, what we know now, well, there you have it.
Wow. So how did you get to the European university that you are?
Well, quite frankly, I've been in academia for a long time, and over the years, I've decided that in order for me to try and fulfill this mission that I keep referring to, this passion, I'm going to flip the script. So the flip of the script is that the students that I empower are going to come from countries that do not have that privilege. We see borders going up, we see difficulties in migration.
Yes.
It's not easy for anybody to come to Europe or to go to the US, and the privilege that I had, this is impossible for the vast
a lot of people.
Exactly. But that does not mean that they cannot get the same quality education. So this is where I decided I'm going to begin and found this institution called Technology Enabled Learning Africa, and it evolved into the European Business University. And to date, we have more than 200 students from the African continent, from the Asia region, and from Latin America, who are on scholarship. And I mentioned that the script is flipped, because the reason why they're why they are on scholarships is because we have full paying students from the European Union, from the America, from the States, who are subsidizing them.
Wow.
So I've flipped the script, and I think it meets the whole idea, the whole challenge that education should be affordable, accessible, and if anything, equitable. And that's what we've made it.
And empowering as well.
Very empowering.
Regardless of the geographical backgrounds or boundaries that are there. That's amazing.
Absolutely. In an online education, the quality is the same, and the beauty of it is, there is no back row. in an online program. And just because you're physically in a classroom does not mean you're mentally there. But we can actually flip this and ensure that students are mentally engaged, even though they're not physically present.
Yeah.
So I think it can really do wonders to educate the masses, and this is our mission.
Wow. And that's basically what you say, doing something that's bigger than you, right?
Correct.
And I think you found a perfect way to give back, because the best thing you can, I think what really keeps us grounded is finding a way to serve, to be of service to people, really. And you found yours. How did you find your way of service?
Well, through my students. I will say that my students are the ones who, because of their passion and their response, and I realized that, well, everybody has to find their own, shall I say, salvation? But let me just put it this way. The only true measure of success is how much you have helped others. That's the only true measure of success. It's not, nature has a different way of rewarding. Nature, or whatever, whoever you want to, give credence to. I say nature in this respect. Nature has a different way of rewarding everybody. Wants to slay it. So the house that you live, the size of the car, that's not nature's measure. So
absolutely.
Figure it out yourself.
I'm with you. I'm really with you there. So what am I taking? What are we taking from your education as a way of empowering yourself? Pick yourself up. Do not procrastinate. Habits. And find a way to serve, right?
Correct.
Find a way to serve and find a way to do something that is absolutely bigger than you.
Yes, exactly.
And then you start.
Yeah, I don't believe that you should also consider, we're all equal. We're not equal. And let me just correct myself in the explanation. We're not equal, but we all must have equal opportunities, because no one is equal.
Yes.
So we need to change the script and understand the script. And if we understand the script, then this is, I think, what's going to empower all of us eventually.
We're talking about equal opportunities for everybody.
Correct.
And remembering that we are not equal. I like that, really. That's got a lot of depth. That's so profound. I mean, it's so simple and so profound at the same time. Oh, James, amazing. Do you have any last words that you would like to share with us?
Well, all I can say is, if you want to find out what is really important for you, I have 3 words. Join my university.
Very true words, yes.
Join the battle. Join us to bring education to the masses. Join us in this struggle.
Well, that's a perfect way to end this. And I will definitely be linking the university in the comments below. And feel free to reach out to James and connect with him and learn from him and share your stories with him. And looking forward to seeing you next week.